By now, you know Michael Brown's story. For Black Americans, this is just reality.
It feels like it takes no time for you to get pulled over by the police, but we couldn't cover his body or get him out of the street for 4 hours. That type of trauma, it really seeps into the soil of a community.
The thing about Ferguson you have to remember is people weren't just protesting the death of an unarmed Black teen.
People were protesting revenue-generating policing and the resurgence of the modern-day debtor's prison to make people poor and keep people poor.
Who are we? Mike Brown! Who are we? Mike Brown!
Days of protests turned into weeks, weeks into months. Prominent voices became leaders, and leaders took charge of a movement.
This country has always devalued Black bodies, has never seen Black people as worthy of protection or their rights.
If you look around today, those same protesters are still on the ground, reimagining what justice should look like.
Cash bail is the driver of this institution, and it's punishing people strictly for their poverty.
Mike Brown and the work that we're doing right now is a continuation of the fight that he had in the middle of that street, when he was literally fighting for his life.
In this new vision of St. Louis, Missouri, elected officials answer to them.
We're not gonna stop. Every single tool that has literally oppressed communities just like this, we on attack.
Wow. You know, every time I see that, I'm gonna be honest, I don't like to revisit pain. I really don't. And that is just so painful to see those videos and you know, it just puts you in a place that, you know, have we really gotten further with this? So I just want to say welcome to Maintain Monday.
On the heels of Independence Day,
Yeah.
we thought it was most appropriate to have a conversation about justice in America. We are in a struggle for justice in America. We are talking about the Mike Browns, as the video indicated. It's not just about Mike Brown, right? We've heard George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and the list goes on. I mean, there's hundreds upon hundreds,
And in
upon
our town,
thousands.
And in our town, Freddie Gray.
Freddie
right?
Gray. Yeah, so this is for every Mike Brown.
Yeah.
This is for every Breonna Taylor. On this July 5th, we dedicate this show to you.
Yes.
So we wanted to start with the scripture reading. Justice executed is a joy to the righteous, but a terror to those who practice iniquity. That's Proverbs 21:15. I'm going to read that again. Justice executed is a joy to the righteous, but a terror to those who practice iniquity.
And Isaiah 1:17 says this: learn to do what is good, seek justice, correct the oppressor, defend the rights of the fatherless, plead the widow's cause. Let me read that again. Learn to do what is good, seek justice, correct the oppressor, defend the rights of the fatherless, plead the widow's cause.
So what comes up for me, a few weeks ago we did a show on Juneteenth. And, you know, we talked a whole lot about true freedom. And that freedom is not really the goal. And I thought that was an interesting perspective. Because we've all along the way we've thought freedom is the goal. But actually, in this country, equality is the goal.
Yeah.
We have had freedom on paper since 1863.
Right.
1865 with Juneteenth, we found out that we actually began to exercise that freedom.
Right.
But in 2021, we are still fighting for justice and equality in this country.
Yes, we are. And we're going to talk about the voice of truth.
Absolutely.
The voice of truth. At Elevation Global Media Group, we are committed to bring inspiration, encouragement, faith, empowerment, and the good news to cause change and transformation to the hearer's life. So we have our ears to the ground to see what's going on in these streets. We stay up on what's going on in trending hot topics in entertainment, music, relationships, and social media trends, and breaking news. You've heard other radio shows, talk shows, podcasts talk about these issues, but we bring a different perspective, a voice of truth, God's voice of truth.
And God's voice of truth to what's going on in these streets is not a monolith. It's not a single perspective that's applicable to all people. God's voice manifests itself on this earth through a diversity of voices that represent different people in different stages of life with different life experiences. But ultimately, that one voice is echoed for the common good. And it is helpful to build others up according to their needs so that it may benefit those who listen.
Oh yes, and Elevation Global Media Group is creating a diverse platform of men and women who all have powerful voices of truth. They come from all walks of life. They will entertain you, they will make you laugh, and they'll make you think differently about what's going on out in these streets.
And so for the very first time, we want to introduce you to 3 of a growing number of diverse voices on our new platform, and to the person, may I call him a visionary, in Elevation Global Media Group that's helping to put this all together. Please welcome Mr. Heath Wiggins.
Welcome, Heath, in
Welcome.
these streets.
Hey, thank you so much. Greetings from these internet streets, from these internet corridors. How are you all doing? Good to see you all, Cassandra and Placido.
So nice to see
So
you.
good to see you too, Heath. You look amazing as always.
Absolutely.
Thank you kindly.
Tell us about the platform Elevation Global Media Group is building and what is its purpose?
Great question. So, and great introduction, by the way. I love the concept. I love the content. I love the approach that Elevation is taking. And I'll step back a little bit just to give you some context about where this originated. And so I was looking at a documentary about Motown. And when I was looking at the Motown documentary, what I noticed that was unique about Motown, even back in 1959 when they were created, they used everybody that was a great asset, that was a great singer, was a great songwriter. They all hung together and they all wrote their songs together. And they built internally an ecosystem that allowed them to generate hit after hit after hit for 60 years, for 6 decades. And they're still relevant today. And I did some research and studied about what is it that they are doing. And it's that ecosystem that they built where they took the skills of the people that they had internally, and they didn't say, we're gonna go for self over here, we're gonna go for self over there. They used that group together. And so when I was looking at Elevation and how we can grow our voice of truth and how we can be connected to what's happening on the ground, I said, let me take some of the skills that they learned in Motown and try to utilize that for our organization. So that is that's kind of the approach that we took. We wanted to take people that were already internal to Elevation Global Media Group and try to utilize them to help build a ecosystem internally where we have content that we're creating, we have shows that we're creating, and everyone's using each other's show to help build each other up. And from that, like if you look at the different comedians that are out there, popular comedians like Kevin Hart, he has his Red Cup Boys, right? And he doesn't go anywhere on tour without his Red Cup Boys. So his Red Cup Boys are getting shine because they're connected to Kevin Hart. They could go out there and try to do things on their own, but they wouldn't get as much notoriety and fame and publicity as they would if they were with Kevin Hart. If you think back to the rap group Outkast, they were known for The Dungeon. The Dungeon was the music group, the producers that created the music for Outkast. And the people that were associated with The Dungeon were eventually created the rap groups, the Goody Mob and Organized Noise. And they all had to work together to build each other's brand up. So that's what we're going to be doing here at Elevation. We're trying to grow internally and build up our brand and build up our voice. And we're connecting with strong people who have strong, powerful voices of God and voices of truth.
That's awesome. And I bet the viewers didn't know that they were going to get a history lesson, too.
They got one.
They got one. You better ask somebody.
On these internet streets.
On these internet streets.
Always.
Absolutely. So, without further ado, let's take this opportunity to introduce some of these powerful voices.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'll take the great honor to introduce them. So let me give you some other context about this. So one of the platforms that we are creating within Elevation Global Media Group, we have a lot of different media platforms, or mediums, I would say. We have the radio station, we have the radio shows, we have television shows, we have book affiliations. We have a lot of different things, and we also have podcasts. And so we're not just focusing on one medium, but we have a plethora of media mediums. And one of the media mediums that we're launching is a podcast medium that's going to be inclusive of our ecosystem. And what we wanted to do was identify existing voices that were out there that had a positive message, that had a great voice of truth that they wanted to communicate. And we identified them, we did some auditions, and we identified a group of ones that we're going to start out with. And I want to first introduce you to Natasha Fortune. Natasha Fortune has 20 years of experience in television and film industry. She received her degree in speech and theater from Long Island University in New York City. And she has worked on in front of the scenes as an actor and singer, and behind the scenes in beauty and production. Her experience in television and film also include performances at Madison Square Garden, in theaters, in several plays in New York, recordings with major record labels, featured roles on television shows, hosting beauty pageants. She's a busy woman, writing, directing, and producing her own children's production. She also teaches theater and coaches children at her educational studios, Justed League. And Natasha overall uses her experience to change the lives of people. So please welcome Natasha Fortune to our podcasting ecosystem.
Welcome,
Natasha.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Fine.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course.
Let me also, do we want to introduce Chloe too? Let me introduce Chloe Redmond. She began her career in government, consulting with the NOAA and NASA as a marketing, as a communications impact specialist. She was a spokesperson for the Change Control Board. She also was the communication liaison at NOAA as well. In her current career, she is in AARP, and she is a communications project manager. Chloe is a recent grad from University of Maryland with a master's in public relations with a bachelor's in communication at Stevenson University. Please welcome Chloe Redmond, the beautiful Chloe Redmond, to the team.
Welcome,
Chloe.
Chloe. Oh,
Thank
boy.
you. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
How are you, Chloe?
Wow.
I'm doing well. I'm so excited to join the podcast, and I can't wait to communicate with the rest of my co-hosts.
Awesome,
wow.
awesome.
Wow.
Speaking of the rest of the co-hosts, we have one more, Mr. David Bonner. Smooth David Bonner. Not to be confused with David Banner. David Bonner. David Bonner is a lead pastor of D. Bonner Ministries located in Acton, Maryland. He also serves as the electronic media pastor at Temple of Healing Waters Church of God in Christ in Dulles, Virginia, and Suitland, Maryland. He's also a lead consultant in insurance and estate settlements. But do not sleep on those lofty credentials, because David Bonner is also a lifetime member of Omega Psi Phi Incorporated. So he serves as the assistant chaplain and a graduate of Towson University with a bachelor's degree in business administration, the double concentration in marketing and human resources.
Wow.
David Bonner is a spiritual leader with national audience in the faith community, as well as those who are inspired by real-life practical teaching. He is committed to bridging the gap of social understanding and uplifting those who have been underserved in our community. Please welcome Mr. David Bonner to our
Hello,
team.
everyone.
Welcome,
Thank you.
David.
David.
Thank you. Look,
Wow.
and after that introduction by Heath, I have nothing else to say. That's everything.
Don't stop too soon, because we got some questions for you.
All right.
Yeah, all I can say is, Heath, you have put together a dream team.
Absolutely.
A power force to be reckoned with. I mean, I know, I could just see and, and hear, how God has brought you guys together and how much power is going to come out of this podcast. So thank you and welcome, welcome, welcome.
Welcome. So you guys, Cassandra has said it all. Truly, truly a dream team. And I know there's more to come. But what I want to know is, with this message of Elevation Global Media Group being the voice of truth, I want to hear, and we can start with you, David, how that resonates with you. Why is it important for your voice to be a part of the truth that is shared with this generation?
Yeah, I'm excited, and I really love the vision of Elevation Global Media because, really just being connected, keeping your ear to the ground, being able to decipher information and give a message of inspiration, truth, and hope to people, and to really take the spin off of it and bring it from an inspirational point, a God-based message. That's something that resonates with me because I believe in touching the world one person at a time, but being able to do that by exposing them to the truth, by being able to have the difficult conversations, the easy conversations, but through all of that, bringing across the message to say, hey, we're just trying to touch, to inspire, to have a conversation that will resonate. And even if we agree or disagree in those conversations, it's going to be based on truth. And that's right in line with Elevation Global Media.
Wow. Wow. Oh.
Absolutely. So Chloe, we'd like to hear from you. You, obviously, we're all young and sexy and fine and all of that, but you might be one of the younger ones in this group. How important is it for truth to be shared in a relatable way to your generation?
I think it's very important. I would say in my journey as a young Christian, I've learned that I value uplifting and advising and encouraging young adults. And I know that sometimes as millennials, our perspectives are either innovative or misunderstood. So I hope that I will be able to continue to use my most authentic voice and impact young adults by speaking truth, by using my own perspective, my own background in communications, and also my own experiences that I've journeyed through. I'm a very transparent person, so I hope that people will hear my truth and be able to relate to some of the things that I've been through and find their truths based off of the information that my co-host and I are able to share today.
Absolutely.
Wow. I'm just saying, wow, being authentic, saying your truth, and like you said, praying that your truth will be able to transform someone else's life.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And I think David said it, right? Touching one life at a time.
Touching one life at a time.
So last but certainly not least, Miss Natasha Fortune. Your background is largely in an industry that gets a whole lot of shine, gets a whole lot of attention, but may not be known as truth telling, right? There's a lot of hype, there's a whole lot of stuff in the entertainment world, we'll say. How can you bring a unique perspective to this upcoming podcast?
Well, I am the example of, if I can do it, then so can you, because I've been through and I've had a lot of things come my way, some good, some not so good for me, and I was able to overcome. So through all of that and still being in this industry and having a foot in it, I feel that I bring that lead by example in a way, and still putting God first in everything that I do.
Natasha, I love that. If I can do it, you can. And
Yeah.
I love that, you know, how much simplicity you bring. Like, God ain't that complicated. You guys make it complicated. Come on now.
Right.
Yeah.
Heath, did you have something to add?
Well, I think what's not being, I guess, identified yet, and it will be identified later on, is the quality and character of these hosts, and the comedy, the sheer utter comedy that they have when they're put together in a room and we're talking about regular stuff that people talk about on regular shows, what's happening in the news, what's happening in what's going on social media. I think the benefit and the purpose of us having our ear to the ground is we're talking about what other people are talking about, but we have a specific perspective, a voice of truth that we're bringing. But it's not a dull truth, right? It's not a Bible study. It's not a let's break open the word, although we can do it. You've got capability to do it.
Come on.
But it's not a break open the word in a Bible study, but it's a natural, just a very general flow about the communication. And I think one of the beautiful things about having a diversity of voices is that just as we saw in the one example of Jesus Christ walking on the earth, there were 4 different versions of what happened, right? The 4 Gospels. They echoed the same tales, but they told it from different perspectives. And that whole canon, that whole panoply of messages is what we call the gospel. So we have 3 right now, different messages of how they walk through this earth, living their Christian lives, which is the voice of truth, that God's voice of truth, which is being shared to the world. So I think it's very important for people to hear these voices of truth as they navigate their own Christian journey and share their stories as it relates to everyday natural occasions that go on throughout the world.
Go ahead, Heath. That was good.
Yeah, Heath. And I think what's even so more powerful to me, Heath, you know, in Habakkuk said, write the vision and make it plain, and at its appointed time, it will not tarry. How you have heard the vision, you read the vision, you sat in meetings that we talked about the vision, and how you have begun to enhance the vision. That's a whole nother anointing. Don't get me started, brother. Okay? How you and how you bring your whole self. Can I say that? He's like, I'm bringing my whole self to God. You know, because he called me to do this. And how you were able to connect because I was reading something, I think it was the law of respect. We were just reading about the law of respect. How everyone doesn't connect to everybody.
That's right.
But they connect to a leader they can respect. And I'm pretty sure David, Chloe, Natasha, and those others would not have come if they didn't respect you. Number one, they respect your they respect your walk, they respect your commitment, they respect your loyalty, they respect your truth. And you talking about these different parts that, you know, people with these different voices that bring the gospel is nothing but a walk. It's about our walk. It's about our life. So I just thank you for that, Heath. I really do.
You can pass the plate now, y'all. Pass it virtually, all right? That was good word. So listen, you remember that we're here today to talk about this voice of truth inside of the context of Justice for America. So I want to read a scripture that speaks directly to what we're talking about. It says, speak up. Speak up. Judge righteously and defend the cause of the oppressed and the needy. That is Proverbs 31:9. So with that in mind, take a look at this next video.
Now to those disturbing altercations in Ocean City, Maryland. The police department there reviewing its use of force policies for confrontations caught on camera over alleged vaping violations. We want to warn you, these videos are difficult to watch. Kenneth Moulton is in Ocean City for us. Good morning, Kenneth.
Good morning, Robin. A ticket and a fine up to $100. That's what you could get for smoking or vaping on this Ocean City boardwalk. But that's not what happened to several young men who believe they were targeted because they're black. This morning, this disturbing video sparking outrage. Police in Maryland repeatedly kneeing a man stopped for allegedly vaping in a prohibited area. And now the Pennsylvania man arrested on Ocean City's boardwalk speaking out.
I just felt like they shouldn't have swung this the way they did.
Officers say they warned 19-year-old Brian Anderson and his friends that vaping and smoking are not allowed outside designated areas. But police say Anderson continued vaping, became disorderly, and resisted arrest. That repeated kneeing angered people on that busy boardwalk, police calling the crowd aggressive and hostile.
So we were just scared at the time, like we didn't know what else to do. We were trying our best to help him in any way.
After scuffling with an officer, one of Anderson's friends says he was tased. Police say Jatique Lewis threw an officer's bike.
And I get a bike thrown at me. So I grabbed the bike and threw it to the side. Next thing I know, a police officer had came and just pushed us, and then we just started scuffling.
Ocean City Police telling ABC News, while the use of force is never the intended outcome, our police department's first priority is to protect and serve. They do not target based on race or age. But this is not the first time tensions have escalated over vaping on the boardwalk. Just days earlier, this video showing 18-year-old Tazeer Griffin putting his hands up before being tased. Ocean City Police say when Griffin was told to stop vaping, he threatened to kill officers.
He was not resisting. He was not giving any issues to the police officers.
His mother grateful the situation didn't escalate further.
It's when your child's in a situation that you have no control over and you don't know what's going to happen. You flash into these news broadcasts of things that have happened. And I was just praying to God that it did not get to that point.
All those young men facing various charges. The mayor of this city releasing a statement saying he understands the public's concern, and Police Internal Affairs is investigating both incidents. Robin?
Still looking into it. All right, Kenneth, thank you.
I got questions. Number one, I'm upset because I got boys and young men, and I want to know that they're saying that they did these to these young, and that one officer, I may be all over the place, but that one officer kneed that boy 4 times in the side.
I think more.
He was already down. And did they know that they weren't supposed to have the vapors?
For vaping. This is for vaping. Go ahead, Heath.
I'm sorry, Plastic, but I get so frustrated with, you got 4-on-1 with handcuffs and they're and pinning you down, and you can't seem to bring under control another person.
Right.
That just doesn't, it seems like they don't know how to, it seems that beating is a part of their training.
Right. That's what you said. What you said, right? What he said. Violence rather than restraint.
Right.
If this is about restraint, if this is truly about restraint, you mean to tell me 4 people cannot hold one young man in place without kneeing him over and over and over in his ribs? I am disturbed beyond belief with that. And listen, let's just give them the benefit of the doubt that the signs.
You give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm not.
Okay. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that that it was obvious they shouldn't be vaping, because I know that when I go out,
the police or the children.
I'm just saying in general.
Oh, I wouldn't give the police the benefit of the doubt.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not giving you.
My point is, even if they were breaking the law, right? Even if, how does vaping in an area that is restricted equate to kneeing that level of violence? So I'm going to ask Natasha to speak up, as we heard the scripture before we went to the video.
Yes, I'm going to second that and say, how does wearing a hood in a neighborhood, leaving a store, mean that you should be a threat to the neighbors or to the community? There's so many things that are so wrong with this picture. Remember when we were younger and it would say, what's wrong with this picture?
Right.
And we had to pick out the thing. Well, there's so many things wrong with this picture because they weren't even given their just due. They weren't even given an opportunity to put the vapes out or to explain themselves. And I feel like you said, they're automatically going straight to violence and not going to just being like reactive or proactive or having a conversation. And I'm almost certain that it is because of the color of their skin. Right. And trying to make an example, set an example.
That's it.
And the other story, Tazir, I believe his name Green, I may be pronouncing his name wrong, was just a couple weeks prior, and it was a very same situation. Ocean City has been in the news for the behavior of the police force there. And just let me be clear, that one bad police officer or 4 bad or 10 bad police officer does not take away. We just had a show with a police officer right on the stage who we are in very close relationship with and love dearly. So this is not an indictment on all police officers. What we're saying is what we're talking about is what we just saw, right?
Absolutely.
What we're talking about is the situation at hand. And so I'd love to hear from David. What did you see?
You know, Plaster, what I saw here was that this is something that clearly has a lot of layers, a lot of levels, and it requires an investigation because I just recently completed on this past Monday, Prince George's County. I was part of the graduation class for the Citizens Police Academy. And one of the things that you want to see in that video film, we did not see what happened before, nor did we see what led up to it. And I think it's important because when you watch the news, you get snippets. And from that, we draw conclusions. And being, you know, African American or Black, we automatically have a history with the police force that's not necessarily positive. So my whole thing here is that I think, number one, I want to see the footage. I want this to be investigated. I also want to know what is the policy, the use of force policy, and what is your practice? Because the bottom line to me is that this is another consideration that's not spoken of. Ocean City is a big tourist area. Are they setting the climate? I'm talking about the police department for what they're going to do towards certain communities so other communities can feel comfortable. Those are my issues.
Brother David.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You good.
You made a point there, David, about it being an area where a bunch of tourists come. So if I'm coming from Atlanta, how do I know? I don't vape, but if I did, how do I know that it's against the law? Is there signage everywhere? Or is it just something that you go in and you should know? And no matter what, the before and after that, during was just way out of control. And it was completely out of line. And I have a 20-year-old daughter and son, and I couldn't imagine that being them, especially because now they're starting to travel, you know, and things of that nature. It's just unfortunate.
It is, and it's my worst fear that that gentleman, as I was saying, Tazir, I believe his name was, that he could have been a Mike Brown. Like we started in the beginning of the show with this video that Mike Brown isn't just Mike Brown, right? It's all of us. It is our children that are in these streets. It is our husbands. It is, you know, us. The Breonna Taylors of the world. Like we do not want people to look at us and assume that we can handle brutality. Like Placida can somehow, her ribs are stronger than the next one. So I can knee her, jack her up, and nobody's going to come to her rescue because she happened to be born in the wrong complexion. That is a disgrace.
It is a disgrace
to justice in America.
You know, like what David said. I'm sorry, Chloe. I just want to piggyback on what there is at this point when something is done like that, there is a call for leadership to show up.
Absolutely.
Where the leadership needs to address it, and they need to show up, and they need to reconcile it. They need to get on camera, because my thing is, if you know that your people under your leadership are acting like this, you need to show up as a leader and address this.
Go ahead, Chloe. Thank you, Cassandra.
And just to add to that, Cassandra, when we speak about leadership, it also depends on how the leaders are trained and where their hearts lie. Because we've heard a lot on the news and the Black Lives Matter movement, a lot of people are saying to defund the police and etc. But I think that it's more than that. I think that police and their leadership, they need DEI training. They need to know how to deal with specific traumas, whether that's having therapy and etc. So they don't just go for Blacks and African Americans because of what their thoughts are and how they picture us as a race. And I think that is very important. I think leaders should definitely invest more into the police force. Maybe that's not money, but invest more into time in their training and how they see African Americans, their viewpoints of us and how they treat us. And that comes back to leaders, but also it brings up the question, is this a heart issue? So is it a heart issue, racism, or is it a heart issue? And it can be both.
Right. So I hear you. You're saying diversity and inclusion training. You're saying that people need to deal with their traumas so they're not in the workforce, you know, handling or dealing with it on at the expense of another life. Heath, you were going to say?
Yeah. I want to piggyback on something that Sandra was saying, and I definitely agree. I didn't think about that perspective, Chloe, about the heart issues and the trauma that police officers go through every day dealing with all the things they do. But I don't care. I don't care. Because I'm a threat, regardless of what I'm doing to them. And your trauma, it's like, oh, I feel sorry for the abusive husband because, you know, he has to deal with a whole lot of stuff and he just gets home and he just wants to be left in peace in a clean house, but his wife doesn't do that, so he beats her. You know, as a wife, you'd be like, oh yeah, let's get him some therapy for his work situation. No, I don't care. As a Black man, I am afraid to travel throughout the country with my wife because I don't want to go in certain states that I am considered a threat just for being there. So that makes me feel like the things that are being portrayed here are a part of their training. It's a part of their process. And one of the things that I really feel is that, and I've known we had a person that was a police officer on the show recently, but I really believe that the police be lying. They initially, at all fronts, say, oh, it was a person that had a cardiac arrest, or this person was being defensive, or this person was resisting arrest. That is their patented statement, no matter what happens. Only after footage shows that, oh, I'm sorry. Ooh, maybe we got the report wrong. I misspoke is the famous word for lying. And that is the standard approach. And so it says to me that not only do they lie and they are abusive and they use abuse as a part of their training, it's indoctrinated in their culture. And so even though you may have one good apple, I think the bunch is bad.
That you know, Heath, I can hear it now, but I can tell you that a lot of people will have a problem with that statement. But what we need to do is investigate the bunch.
Investigate the bunch.
So the good ones will stand apart and be appreciated for the way that they lay their lives down for us to all be safe. I believe there are many, and there's some in my family, there's some that are my friends. There are many, many, many good police officers. Yeah. That is my perspective. But there are also many bad ones.
And let's start with the one that was kneeing him. Let's pull him up.
Right, but as we are bringing this conversation to a close, but this is just a small example of how we will flesh out these issues, right? They're real to us. Yeah. And I will tell you this, as we're closing, I want to say this one thing. Is there, because the name of this show is Justice in America. And I'm not going to say that there's no justice in America, but I want our viewers to think about this. Is there a state in America where he doesn't have to worry about traveling with his family? Is there one? Is there one? Can we get one state where he does not have to think about? Because until we can get 50, 51, the territories, traveling abroad, can we really say that there is justice in America and beyond for people who look like you and I? And so this is to be continued.
Mm-hmm.
This is to be continued. We thank you guys so much for the gift that you are, that you bring to Elevation Global Media Group. We are so looking forward to what you're going to be doing through this upcoming podcast. Cassandra?
And I just want to invite our viewers into a relationship with Christ, because we need Jesus. We do.
Yes, we do.
And I know with him, we are able to do all things. And in Romans 10:9, it says this: because if you acknowledge and confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, recognizing his power, authority, and majestic as God, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. This is how you can go through life. Let's just say that. This is how you can get wisdom to do. You need Jesus. So we invite you into the family.
Absolutely. Well, we hope that you've had, you had a wonderful 4th and an excellent Juneteenth. And we hope to see you next week right here, same time, same place on Maintain Monday. Keep maintaining.